Hello and welcome back to Stationeers. I'm Mick and today we're doing some furnace science. Now today we are looking at your basic furnace. I've got a few experiments set up here ready to go, but let's just start with a basic overlook of the machine. This is our furnace here. I like to stick it on its side so stuff goes in one side and pops out the other. It's easy to reach the outlets, but do it your own way. This is the machine we've got there. Now it does have an inlet and outlet on the back. It has an outlet pipe for water. Should you put water ice into your furnace to try and melt it? I never put water ice in my furnace, so I never have that thing hooked up. But there are a few tricks associated with the inlets and outlets which may not be quite apparent. In terms of the operation of the furnace, you put either metals or ice or both into one side, you heat it up, and your metals come out the other side if you've done it right. But as I say, there's a few little things there to do with the inlets and outlets which can be a little confusing for some people. Right, so the first up for fueling your furnace, we will start by fueling with ice. Now the thing with ice is we're using our volatiles and oxides, which are our ice. Now those ones, you've probably heard a lot of bits on the internet there, people advising what the ratio is to use. Well, it is simply when your hydrogen and oxygen burn together, they form water, or in the real world, they form water. So it's 2 hydrogen to 1 oxygen, so it's H2O. So you need 2 hydrogen for every oxygen. Now when you're using your furnace, I'm here on Mars at the moment, it's easiest to handle your ice at night because then you can use it without it melting in your hand. Now typically the way we use this is we're going to close it up, and what we're doing here is we're just going to drop our ice straight in. Our temperature in there is very cold, so it's below freezing, so if I put our ice in there it's just not going to melt on its own. So if I grab my hydrogen, so I chuck in 2 hydrogen, so nothing happens. We've got to click the button to melt the ice. 1, 2, both melted. We're good. Once again, nothing has happened. The pressure in there has built up, and that'll be our hydrogen that's in there now. So it's 98% hydrogen in there. And we add to that our 1 oxide. And it goes. Once again, it's below freezing, it hasn't melted. We push the button, it melts it and fires the furnace for us. So now it is quite hot in there. We see there's a little bit of hydrogen left, a bit of oxygen as well. So it hasn't given us a complete combustion there. And once again, it's given us our heat, it's given us our pressure, and it is now cooling down because it is in a furnace is uninsulated in a hot environment. Now the things we've got to take careful note of here is we find if we look at our furnace here and our output pipe. Now these two are an extension one of the other, but they find that the mix in both of them says 63% CO2, that's only 52% CO2 in the output. So you'll find that they will equalise temperature and pressure, but once the temperature and pressure has equalised, the gas mix will not pass from one to the other. Whereas in the real world, you'll have the gas mixtures would equalise in both, but not in this one. So that's the outlet. The inlet pipe actually has a backflow meter on that one, a back pressure regulator on that one. Well, not a pressure regulator, it has a backflow valve on it, so it can't blow from here back into the inlet. So I've got 1.7 kilopascals in here at 17.1 degrees compared to the 600 kilopascals in there. It's not blowing back into the inlet pipe. That allows us, when we're using gas, we can fill that up with a fuel mix and we don't have to worry about the furnace igniting all our fuel mix back into the pipe. We have a high pressure, high temperature in there, and our whatever gas is on our input, whether it be our fuel, is all safe in this pipe. Now nothing will flow from here into the furnace until this pressure is higher than this pressure. So we've got 900 kilopascals there. I can suck in more gas there and nothing will happen until it exceeds that pressure there. So if we pump it up, got 300 kilopascals in there, it's not going anywhere. It's staying in there as it is because we've still got 800 in there. But the moment we let this one out and it drops down, as soon as it drops below 400, if it gets there, 400, there we go. It is now allowing the pressure to come out of here and back into the furnace. Now that one provides us, as I say, provides a safe back check so the furnace doesn't blow back into our fuel supply, but it does also provide a couple of other little issues there which are not quite so desirable. So they may give you a reason to use your furnace a little bit differently. Now your furnace is an uninsulated body. You can sort of glitch it, I guess, by encasing it in a frame. So if we do the old frame trick there, where's my tool? I'm in creative at the moment, so I can do that. That is deemed to be fully encased in a frame, and it won't cool down from there. So if I use my daytime fueling trick, if I just stand in the right spot, and where's my fuel? Grab a couple of them, one of them, volatiles, 1, 2, and away we go. Oops, and close it up perhaps might be a good idea. But we see there we have a constant temperature and pressure now. That is not cooling down at all. So even though it's sticking out of the wall that far, it is deemed to be completely enclosed and fully insulated. So just a little trick there to have. Rightio, so first up we're going to have a look at our furnace. We're just going to try fueling it with by adding ice. Now the trick with adding with ice is you've got to balance your own fuel. Now the fuel we have, we're just going to add in chunks of, well, oxide and volatiles, so just hydrogen and oxygen. And to get it to burn, we have to have at least 5% of hydrogen and 5% of oxygen. Now the gas is going to burn in a stoichiometric ratio, so it's going to want to burn as twice as much oxygen to hydrogen. So you've got to pay attention to how much you've got in there, because sometimes you'll be adding ice, nothing will be happening. Just by knowing how much is in there will be your big way of going towards it. At the moment there's nothing in there, but your gas tablet is going to be one of your best friends in all of this. Now let's say we've got a sensor set up here, a display there, a graph of our temperature. We have a temperature and pressure of the furnace. We have our percentage of volatiles and oxygen. So we'll just start by adding in chunks of ice. So we want a 2-to-1 ratio. So we'll stick in our 2 hydrogen. Nothing happens because the furnace is cold. Click to melt the ice. We now have 100% hydrogen in there. Now 1 oxide, in it goes. Now we click it to melt and it fires it. And we've got straight to 1600 degrees. Now we'll see we still have some residual gases there. They change around a little bit as gas exchanges between the exhaust pipe and the combustion chamber there. So once again we have less than 5% of each. So there will be no combustion in there. Now I can add as much hydrogen as I like. If there's not 5% of oxygen, nothing will happen. And vice versa, I can add as much oxygen as I like. If there's not 5% of hydrogen, nothing will happen. But I mean, we can change things there, because once it's burnt, if we want to add more to it, we can still just add more. So if we split 2 more volatiles in there, once again, nothing's going to happen because we don't have 5% of oxide in there. So we split one again, and it goes, and it immediately fires again. We get another boost of temperature. Once again, because we've now had enough hydrogen in there, oxygen there, it's been balanced to a stoichiometric mix. So once again, we've got a fairly much even bit of leftover in there. Now an alternate way to do that is just to add a whole chunk of one type in there. So you can just add like the whole lot of oxide in there. Nothing's going to explode because we don't have enough hydrogen in there for it to ignite. And then it's just a matter of splitting in. Oops, it's daytime. Temperature's going up, so we've got a little fire there. Bang, it went. It absorbed some more cold out of the pipe straight away. So Grab a few. In they go. We got over 5% and it fired again. So all we're doing now is adding hydrogen. We've got surplus oxygen in there, so it's just burning as we go. That's a handy way to actually control your temperature. You don't have to worry about the oxide. I'm just adding the volatiles now as I need it. So you're not messing around with two different chunks of ice. You're just messing around with the one lot. So there's an easy way of maintaining it. But once again, if you find yourself adding in stuff as quickly, I chuck in some there. We said nothing happens. Don't know what's going on. Split a couple more if I can. Split a couple more. I did fire that time. But if you're adding ice in and you don't know what's going on, as I say, you've got your gas sensor there. You can look at it. You can see now we've got 37% oxygen, so we don't need to be adding oxygen. The reason if we want something to fire now, we need hydrogen because there's 0% hydrogen in there. So this, your gas analyzer, is going to be your friend in your furnace. It'll tell you if you don't have 5% of each in there, nothing's going to happen. So keep it handy because it will save you a lot of head scratching if you can't figure out what's going on. Right, our next one up. Now this one here, we are using a gas fuel. So I've separated out the hydrogen and the oxygen. So we have pure hydrogen coming in one side, pure oxygen coming in the other side. They're both at the same temperature, so I can mix them with a gas mixer at 63-67%. So it's a 2-to-1 ratio as with the ice. And once again, we have our contents of ice and fuel and hydrogen and oxygen in there, our temperature and pressure. Now this one is blowing straight into the inlet chamber there, inlet pipe. So we'll close it up. Now we have our pressure gauge. We have a little bit of fuel in there at the moment. We do. Now that is not enough to get into the machine. So the same pressure in here as we have in here. So it's not going to flow. To get it into there, once again, we have to exceed the chamber pressure with this pipe pressure. This pipe has to be at a higher pressure. If we switch on our machine, we see that blowing up. We see the gas is now flowing into here. Switch it off. And we have our close enough to an ideal gas mixture there. It's ready to go. It's cold. So hit the button to fire it. Boom. And away we go. We've suddenly got heat. We've got pressure. Our hydrogen and oxygen have been burned. There's a little bit of it left. But most of it's there. So now you see that our temperature has risen up. It's cooling down now because it is outside. If it was insulated, we wouldn't have that problem there. But it drops down. Now, once again, we've got 6 megapascals in there. We still only have 300 kilopascals in there. So if we want to add more fuel to that, we're going to have to get 6 megapascals of fuel in here before it'll push past that back check valve. So that means we're going to have a lot of fuel in there. And yeah, so if we want more heat in there, we're going to have to add more fuel. So as that builds up, we have 1 megapascal. We've got to get up to 5. So it'll take us a little while. We'll get there. Now, an important one to say is to have a look at our graph here. We see it's up to 1500. We're still going. Once it exceeds that, we should have fuel flow into there. We see these numbers go up, and there we go. And boom, it's fired again. Once again, because we've got high pressure in there, the fuel has stopped. If that's not enough high enough temperature, we now have to wait for the fuel to build up again. We have to get to 8 megapascals, and there we go. We've reached 8 megapascal on the fuel line. And once it gets to 10 and 5%, it fires again. So we see our chart there, we have a big jump coming up each time, and each time we have to get more and more fuel into it. You can see once again we've got to get 12 megapascals in there now. We're getting there. The fuels, once it gets up to 10 and 5, it takes a while now. There it is, boom, fires again. Let's switch that off now, it's getting a bit high in pressure. Now you find that the real trick with this one now is to actually relieve the pressure in it. So we've got pressure's up, we get a big jump, but it's cooling down almost as fast as we can put more in there. We've got plenty of pressure. The trick now is I still have 12 megapascals of gas in there, 17 in here. So if I want to actually empty that furnace now, as soon as I have less than 12 megapascals in the furnace, it's going to start blowing in gas again. So if I open that up, we'll see that the fuel has gone up and is fired again. And the pressure is built up again. As soon as that pressure releases again, more fuel will go in from this pipe here. And once again we get another spike in pressure and temperature, and again. And each time the pressure drops, and again, we start getting more and more gas flowing into there. So there's a real issue with that one there. So that is why you like to keep that pipe as short as possible. I've got quite a long one there, so this is probably going to take an awful long time to empty out. But as you see, we're getting more and more temperature each time, and as more and more gas flows into the chamber. So that's the way you sort of want to hook it up with the gas connection there, but it's not the best way to do it. Which sort of leads us to our next one. I'll switch that one off and give it a chance to cool down, because we do have a better option there, is where we can actually hook the gas into the outlet. Now this one here, so there's nothing connected to the input, it is all just connected to the output. I have the valve which goes out to the, okay, that's sucked in all the heat from the other one. So it's putting out a lot of heat. I'll give that one a chance to cool down. Okay, it looks like it's cooled down a bit now. It's dropped. We're back to daytime temperatures. Right, we're good. We'll live with that. Now once again, it's picked up a bit of the waste hydrogen from the other machine there. But here we go. Once again, the same gas mix, 6733. Now if this one here, sort of once again, we have just the atmospheric pressure in here. So now if I switch this one on, once again we'll see that the gases pick up in the chamber. We're good. Pressure's there. Oh, that's a fair bit. Okay, don't explode. Oh, there we go. And once again it has fired 2000 degrees. Yeah, I put a bit much gas in there. That's alright. But now we have, once again, 10 megapascals in there. I have no stored fuel. I'm mixing it as I go. So now if I want to put more heat in there, I'm blowing it directly into this chamber here. Now as we found out at the start there, the gas mix that's in here won't blow back into there unless there's a pressure difference. So while there will be a little bit of pressure difference, it doesn't take as much. So as when I switch it on, we find it will very quickly reach the required amount for combustion. We find that we have lots of combustions happening in short times, and the temperature is actually going up. Let's switch that off. Now this one is because it's not trying to get 5% of the entire furnace chamber here. It only needs to get 5 and 10% of the actual pipe there. So the shorter that pipe is, the shorter these increments will be, and the more control you'll have over your temperature there. So although there's actually less components in that one than in this one than there is in that one, so it seems like you've hooked it up backwards, but this one gives you much greater control over what you've actually got, your temperature control. So once again, our pressure's up, our temperature's up, and we got that up much quicker than we managed in this one. And of course there is no waste fuel in there, so if I open it up to get rid of it, that's it, it all just goes out. There's no extra explosions as the pressure goes down, because our gas mix is not going up, it's just staying the same. There's no store of it. We've still got it stored in this one here. And once again, if I pull that one there, we'll probably still have more explosions left in that one. There we go, it's still going. Whereas this one just has the one outlet, gone. No more, bye-bye. Okay, so that's that one. Now this is the way I used to do my gas furnaces when I first started. That's the way I did it. From a lot of experimenting and a lot of learning and a lot of different builds coming in, I now do it this way. every single time. That is going to be the much simpler way of doing it. Once again, that one there will give you those small jumps. That one gives you, still works, does the big jumps when it gets to them. That one does small jumps. But then we've got this one here, which is another idea I've sort of just come up with. Now this one, instead of having to add the gas directly to the furnace itself or to the outlet pipe, I'm burning it directly in a hydrogen combustor. So that one can just give a direct heat from there, and then uses a heat exchanger to exchange the hot water into the pipe from the furnace. Now the furnace is just at ambient temperature and pressure. Now if we hook that one up, we'll close it up. Now if I switch it on, I do have pressure hooked up. Yep, I have gas pressure hooked up. And if I switch it on, that'll create hot water. There we go, which then turns into a hot furnace. Once again, there's no pressure here because it is just the ambient pressure here, which is a whole 2 kilopascals. So it's not going very far, but it is heating up. It is heating up sort of in a constant way. Well, pretty much constant. There's no jumps, none of the jumps that we had with that one there. And so we have the 1800 degrees in there. And it is a bit of a lag between one and the other, but it is heating up very nicely. Then when we switch that off, we still have the hot water there, which is going to further heat this one here. Though it's going down. It's probably because we're just losing so much heat to the atmosphere, or because we haven't got much pressure in there, I imagine. Now here we have a final test there, which probably has very little scientific merit in it, but we'll have it a go, give it a go anyway. We're going to do an efficiency test on it. So we're going to give each of these furnaces 1 oxide and 2 volatiles. We've got a counter on top of it there that will count the number of iron ingots it can smelt before it drops down to 800 degrees. So I'm just going to keep chucking iron ingots in there, or iron ore in there, until it actually drops to 100 degrees, drops to 800 Kelvin. And we'll do that for each of them. They're different fueling sources. So we'll just get things set up. So we want oxide, one of them, and 2 volatiles. Now I'll go and do this for each of them there. Right, so in with the hydrogen, 1, 2, in with the oxide, boom, and away we go. We've got a temperature there, we are insulated there, so we're not using any of the heat to the atmosphere. And we should just start chucking in iron ingots. Once again, it's counting. Once it reaches 800 degrees, it should stop. Righto, we've dropped down there, so 514 it managed to melt off 1 oxide and 2 volatiles. Now, next one. Now this one is feeding the gas into the inlet, so we shall need some gas rocks there ready to go. Now we are set to 67, switch him on, and ignite. And away we go. Yep, and there we go. It's got to 533 before it dipped below 800 Kelvin. So there's a little bit more. I'm guessing that's because of the 10% nitrogen that was in the oxide there may have cooled it down a little bit. So we've got slightly more on that one there. Okay, so our next one. Now this one is blowing directly into the outlet. So I shall chuck some in there, switch you on, fire, and away we go. Okay, so this one has gotten to 580. So it's done a little bit better, almost another full stack of iron over this one here. Now I'm guessing this one's doing better because we still have a heap of unburnt fuel in the inlet pipe here. Now, if we could have got rid of that, we would have done better. This one has no spare fuel left at all. It put it all straight into the furnace. Oh, I've still got a tiny fraction of a percentage in there. There we go, that's our best one so far. Now the weird experimental one. Let's see how we go on this one. Rightio, so now we come to our last one there with the gas burner. Now this one will just burn off straight into that one there, so we shall see how we go, because it will probably store a lot of heat in the water there, so I suspect this one probably won't do as well. But we shall chuck some in. We shall mix the fuel. We'll probably not get much out of that, and we'll switch it on. And we've not got much at all. 6. That's it. 6. All the fuel's gone. So we switch you off. 50. Oh no, we're good. We're still going. It just took a while to heat up. Okay, so it's dipping back below 600. It'll take a little bit of time to warm back up again. There we go. We got our 100. Now will it warm back up again? Oh, only just. No, it's not going to get there. Wow, 105. That's pathetic. So we're 1 degree short. Well, anyway, so as I say, there's probably a reason not many people use that one there, and I think that's probably why. Okay, so in terms of what we've got there, that one seems to be the most efficient use of the fuel. It has a pretty good temperature control. That's the one with the blowing the gas directly into the output pipe. Seems to give us the best fuel efficiency, gives us pretty good temperature control. As I say, that is the one that is my go-to these days. I used to do it blowing it into the inlet, and it's obviously got some issues with trying to regulate temperature and fuel efficiency. So blow it into the outlet pipe. That seems to be the way to go. Now, I mean, there are other ways to heat your furnace, of course. You can go for electric setups. You can go for a number of different crazy things like this. But I just wanted to deal with the gas fueling it today, because that's the most common one. That's what you're going to use in your early game. And that's, well, if you can get the hang of this, you'll be able to get the hang of other things there. So, yeah, so that's where we go. So just chucking ice in, it's not bad. It does what it has to do. Once again, keep an eye on what the extra gases are in there, and that'll help you out a lot with what you've got to add. But that's about it. So yeah, that's how you fuel your gas furnace. You know, the advanced furnace is a completely different beast, so it's not quite as versatile as the basic one, but we'll probably deal with that another day. So until then, happy building. See ya. And you've got a surplus of oxygen there, so it's just a matter of adding some more hydrogen. Oh shit! That's not good. No. There we go. It didn't blow up. See, I never blow stuff up. Now, if I point a tool at it, did I do any damage to it? It's fine. It's fine. Look at that. No damage at all. I know what I'm doing. Whew.